Hey there guys, what's up? Vipin here. I wanted to give you guys a little bit information on SEBI, Securities Exchange Board of India. Now this is something which you guys need to know from a variety of different angles because it's one of the most powerful institutions this country has ever seen. Okay, so it's important that you know what SEBI is and why is it that we require such a powerful institution in this country. Okay, so let's get started off with this video. Now, what is SEBI? SEBI is a statutory company which has been established to regulate the stock markets in India. Now, why did they feel the requirement to set up SEBI? The stock markets in India have had a complicated history. Okay, for example, we did not have a proper regulation for Bombay Stock Exchange until 1980. The government of India could not even regulate Bombay Stock Exchange until 1980, and the reason is that because Feroz G.G. Boy happened to pass away in 1980, and only after he passed away could the government actually gain control. But even after when the government gained control of Bombay Stock Exchange, there were a lot of things in the market which went unregulated, and you had quite a few scams which went on to happen like this. Like for example, you had the Harshad Mehta Ketan Parekh scam. Now, in these scams, the value of the money which was laundered runs into several thousand crores. These guys were able to jack up the stock markets to such a big extent. They were able to do that only because of lack of regulation. And that's to tell you how bad the stock markets were in terms of regulation once upon a time. So you had SEBI established so that there can be proper order into the chaos that was there in the Indian capital markets. Okay. Now, SEBI came into power in 1992. It is one of the most powerful companies in the country. Now, why do I say it's one of the most powerful companies? Now, when I go about telling you about what SEBI does in terms of functions, you will see how powerful this institution can really get. And in fact, how many companies are forced to comply with the provisions of the regulations which SEBI has put forth. Okay. Now, coming to the various functions of SEBI, now this is where you guys will realize how powerful this institution is. Educating investors. There was a very lovely advertisement which had come a few weeks ago, wherein SEBI was educating investors when it comes to making the appropriate investment. The crux of the advertisement goes something like this. There are three guys who are sitting in this tea shop and they're having tea, and they are one of the guys is in fact signing a form from this broker. The broker goes about telling him that when you go about investing in this particular scheme, you will get very good returns. You will make a lot of money when you go about investing in this. And the guy was about to make that investment. His friend tells him, how do you go about blindly accepting whatever this guy tells? Okay, how do you go about blindly accepting whatever this guy tells? The crux of the advertisement, the message the advertisement actually conveys here is, when anyone tells you that we are going to take your money and invest in the following places and give you returns, they should be able to tell you what they are going to do in order to give you those returns. Okay, they should be able to tell you what they're going to do when they give you these returns. If I were to promise you on an investment, say 30% return or 40% return, remember I'm using the word promise you that return. If that were to be the case, then you as an investor should go about asking me, okay, what are you going to do in order to get me 30% or 40% returns? That's what investors need to be educated upon. In fact, I remember seeing this advertisement on the back of an auto rickshaw in Bangalore. This happens to be a cooperative bank somewhere in Malleshwaram. They were telling investors that if you make deposits in our savings account, remember I'm telling here savings account, you are able to get returns of around 18%, 18% you're able to get. Now, a lot of people would go about making this investment without thinking twice because it's 18% guaranteed. Even the best of fixed deposits don't give you anything more than 10, maybe 11% if you're a senior citizen. Now, as an investor, you're supposed to know how is it that companies go about telling you that we promise you this particular rate of return, or we could get you a range of return anywhere between 10 or 15%. Especially you could see this in terms of investment schemes such as mutual funds. Okay. Now, control the working of stock exchanges. For example, when stock exchanges want to introduce a new product for the sake of trading, you need to take permission of SEBI, and only then can you go about introducing that new product into the exchange. For example, I can consider the commodities exchange in India, MCX. Okay, MCX, let's assume MCX doesn't have corn as a commodity for trading. Because it doesn't have corn, and they feel that okay, a corn market is a very popular market. It is in fact in the US market. Let's emulate the same in this country. So MCX decides to introduce corn. Now when they go about structuring how the product is going to work, they need to go about telling SEBI that okay, this is how the product works, and this is how we plan to regulate the way in which the product works from our side. Only then can SEBI go about giving them the approval that yes, you can go about trading in a commodity like corn. This is one of the things which SEBI does when it comes to stock market regulations. Okay, moving on. Register and regulate the working of intermediaries. For example, let me consider this intermediary, a merchant bank. Now, commerce students may have come across accounting of shares, right? When shares have been issued, when you collect the premium, when you collect the money from the investors, you take up the accounting of how much money comes into your company. Now, usually this accounting is done by a institution known as a merchant bank. Some examples of a merchant bank is, in fact, the largest merchant bank in the country is SBI Capital. Now, SBI Capital, once they go about receiving money for an initial public offer, okay, they can't really go about taking up the accounting work unless they have been registered as a merchant bank. Now, in order to be registered as a merchant bank, you need to take permission from SEBI. Only then can you do the whole accounting work. Alright, you can't go about doing IPO accounting unless you're registered as a class 1 merchant bank. Only then do you get the permission to actually take up IPO accounting. IPO accounting is one of the most complicated accounting that you would come across, purely because the transaction value runs into several hundred crores, and if you are talking about large scale IPOs in India like Coal India Limited, that's where it runs into 12,500 crores in terms of the transaction value. So you need to get registered as a merchant bank, you need to get license from SEBI that you've been registered as a merchant bank. If you want to be a broker, a stock market broker like Karvi Brokers or Motilal or Edelweiss Securities, all these brokers, they need to get permission from SEBI before they in fact do the brokerage work. Okay, other examples of other market intermediaries are underwriters. Underwriters are people who go about insuring an IPO. Okay, you have custodians. A custodian, for example, one of the most famous works of a custodian is proxies when it comes to company meetings. Let's say I'm a large shareholder in a company and I'm unable to attend the board of directors meetings. So if I can't attend that meeting, I can send across a custodian who's able to do the voting on my behalf. Now, if I want to send a custodian to vote on my behalf, the custodian should previously be registered with SEBI, and only then can he go about voting on my behalf. I can't randomly take a favorite uncle and send him across in my name to go about voting. Then regulate the working of mutual funds. Mutual funds, I can do this concept in detail in another video. Okay, so stay tuned for that. I'll give you a complete insight as to how mutual funds work and why they're an extremely popular form of investment for the middle class community. Okay, then issue guidelines with respect to capital issues. Okay, if you remember your first PUC business studies syllabus, they talk about the capital subscription stage. That is when you go about asking money from the public. Now, how much money can you ask from the public is one of the criteria which SEBI puts forth when it comes to the guidelines on capital issues. I'll give you just one of the guidelines. There are a lot, in fact. I don't have time to do all of them. One of the guidelines, for example, one of the criteria you need to fulfill if you want to issue shares to the public. Okay, you as a company should have 5 years of consecutive profits. Okay, 5 years of consecutive profits, and in those 5 years, 3 years you must have shown distributable profits. This is just one of the guidelines, just to tell you how difficult that is for most companies to meet this requirement. Most companies are able to break even only in the third or even the fourth year after their inception. So after their fourth year, even though they've been in this world for about 4 years, they still can't go about selling shares to the public. They should show 5 consecutive years of profits. Consecutive means that they should be 1 year after the other. And in that you should show 3 years of distributable profits. It's not easy for most companies to comply with this requirement. So that's just one of the many guidelines that is there when it comes to the equity issues or the debenture issues which SEBI has put forth, and conducts audits. I'm sorry about that, there was a power cut. Conducts audits and inspections. A good example of this would be how the Sahara Group was caught in one of the audits of SEBI. Now, the Sahara Group recently issued 20,000 plus crores of debentures to the public. Okay. Now, what SEBI noticed is when the Sahara Group has issued debentures to the public, there is lack of documentation from Sahara Group's side. When I say documentation, I mean when people go about buying these debentures or subscribing these debentures, as you call it, you need to have documentation. Okay, if I were to invest in debentures, they're going to ask me details about who I am, where I stay. For example, my PAN card number, extremely important. You can't make an investment today without having a PAN card. All these details they're going to ask. But in case of Sahara Group, they noticed a lot of this information is missing. When you come across instances like this, it's a great way, in fact, wherein black money can come into the market. Black money here is money without any defined source. So when you're getting money from unknown sources, SEBI is going to assume that it's in fact a black market funding. It's something, it's black money funding, and you're in fact bringing this money into the from illegal sources. So it's an extremely difficult thing if you get into trouble for these kinds of problems. And SEBI has caught Sahara Group for this, and Sahara Group has to pay a big fat penalty in this regard. Alright, so that's one of the things which SEBI does when it comes to the audits and inspections that they conduct. And trust me, if you've been caught by SEBI, it's not going to be a good thing. They are a pretty powerful company, and they will go to a very, very large extent in order to bring back the regulation into this country. I appreciate SEBI for that. They need to, in fact, show these companies who's the real boss. Okay, restrict insider trading. A good example of insider trading here would be, okay, let me give you this example. Insider trading happens wherein you have information which the rest of the public don't have, and you use this information in order to take advantage of the stock market. Okay, now let's say, for example, I'm a director for Ranbaxy. Okay, today when I open my inbox, my email account, I notice that there is an email which is having some extremely sensitive information. That is, quite a few products of Ranbaxy has been banned from sale in the American markets. Now this is an extremely bad bit of information that I've got. Surely this information is going to result in the drop of Ranbaxy stock prices in India. It will. Okay, for obvious reasons, because when products are not going to sell, my income is going to come down. When income is going to come down, the company comes closer to a loss. So have this very sensitive information that a lot of our drugs have been banned in the American market, and me as a director of Ranbaxy, what's the first thing I'm going to do? With this bit of sensitive information that I've got, how many ever shares that are there in my account, a big chunk of that, I call up my broker and tell him, slowly start selling this in the market today. Okay, and when the broker is going to sell these stocks in the market today, I'm at a bit of a safe zone. I'll tell you why. Tomorrow, when I go about making this information available to the public, I'm going to come out at the press conference and say we as a company have in fact lost a lot of our markets because America has in fact banned our drugs. Hearing this bit of bad news, the stock market price of Ranbaxy is going to plummet tomorrow. Now, if I had held my stocks until tomorrow, I would be in fact suffering a big fat loss. But that's not going to happen because I sold everything yesterday. I've minimized my loss to a big extent. This is what you would refer to as insider trading. This information that I have is available only to me and a few of my colleagues at the director level, at the senior management level. And using this information, I've taken advantage of the market, and this is what SEBI refers to as insider trading. Insider trading is an extremely serious crime. In fact, it is treated on criminal grounds. You could serve a jail sentence if you get caught for insider trading. Okay, now these are some of the things which you would come across of the functions of SEBI. I may have given a few more points in my notes on vipinmks.com, but this is good enough according to me. Okay, I hope you like this video. Have a nice day. If you have any queries, of course, please leave it in the comment section below. And of course, please go about subscribing to my videos. Okay, thank you guys. Have a nice day. See ya.